My beloved child, the truth is that there has never been a single moment in your life that was accidental. The fact that you are still here, that your heart continues to beat, that breath still rises and falls within your chest, is not because you are luckier than others, nor because you have never made mistakes. It is because I have kept you. I have laid my hand of protection over your journey, even along the stretches you never noticed. There were times you thought you survived by instinct alone, by habit, by your own toughness. But my child, without my quiet guardianship, you would have fallen long ago, especially in those moments when your heart felt most hollow. Your being alive today is not a meaningless delay. It is a space of grace. A gift of time I have given you, so you might rediscover what your soul has neglected for far too long. I know you once believed that faith could only be measured by great events, by dramatic moments, by miracles so obvious they leave others in awe. You grew accustomed to waiting for a sign strong enough to force belief upon you. Yet while you waited for thunder, I was working silently within the smallest movements. I did not test your faith by pushing you into an abyss, but by placing you in the midst of an ordinary-looking life, where days unfold slowly and steadily, and it is precisely that steadiness that lulls the soul to sleep. You assumed that when nothing remarkable happened, nothing divine was at work. You were mistaken. Some of my deepest work takes place when nothing seems to change, because I am digging foundations within you, places your own eyes cannot reach. Listen to me now with your fullest attention, not with ears trained to react, but with the deepest chamber of your soul. I do not come to plant fear, nor to threaten you with dark futures. I come to wake you from a long trance, the trance of postponement, of telling yourself there is still time. Later will do. Everything is fine as it is. You did not realize that this very sense of fine has slowed your seeking of me. You learned to adapt to emptiness and called it peace. You grew accustomed to dryness and called it maturity. But I see clearly inside you there is thirst, weariness, and a longing for a real touch, not merely another day endured. My child, every second of your life unfolds within a sacred order you did not design. Not a single breath is wasted. Not a single morning is meaningless. Even on days when you wake heavy, directionless, uninspired, I am still there. I use those days to whisper a truth into your heart. You were not created merely to exist. I allow you to feel tired so you will stop leaning on your own strength. I let you reach your limits so you will begin to seek a source beyond yourself. If I were finished with you, you would no longer feel this emptiness at all. The thirst within you is proof that I am still calling. There were dangers that came far closer to you than you ever realized. Events had been set in motion. Crossroads that seemed small, but could have carried you toward an entirely different ending. You never knew, because I stood ahead of you, quietly redirecting your steps, silently closing doors that had you entered would have wounded your soul beyond easy repair. You heard no collision, saw no intervention, and so you assumed nothing happened. Yet that very nothing was the sign of protection. I watched over you in nights when you slept unaware. I held you in days when exhaustion reduced you to moving forward by sheer momentum. You did not notice, because true protection is not loud, not dramatic, not demanding recognition. I also silenced voices that did not come from me. Some words were sown into your mind with an appearance of reason, persuasion, and familiarity, so much like your own thoughts that you scarcely questioned them. They did not shout or threaten, but slowly caused you to doubt your worth, to shrink your dreams, to believe you deserved only a life of quiet endurance. I stripped those voices of their power before they could take deep root within you. At times you wondered why you suddenly hesitated, why a once burning intention faded before completion. You thought it was indecision or weakness, yet often it was me holding you back from a choice that would have eroded your soul over time. My beloved child, I have not only preserved you from what is visible, but also from assaults you had no ability to recognize on your own. There are attacks that do not aim at your body, but at your inner steadfastness. They come to wear you down through waiting, to discourage you through the slowness of the process, to make you believe that your perseverance is pointless. I stopped them before you could begin to believe that you were without worth. If you are still able to rise after moments when you felt you could not possibly stand again, it is not because you are stronger than others, but because I did not allow your appointed time to end sooner than what I had determined. And now, I speak not by coincidence. This moment is not a random pause in the sequence of your days. It is a significant intersection, where many things will be shaped for the road ahead. You may think that today is like any other day, that you are simply reading or hearing one more message, and then returning to your familiar rhythm of life. But I tell you this, what you do with this moment will leave a deeper and more lasting mark than you realize. There are doors that do not open through dramatic actions, but through genuine listening. There are transformations that do not begin with outward circumstances, but with a heart stirred deeply enough that it cannot return to its former state. You have only a brief window of time to choose how you will respond. Not because I am in a hurry, but because your heart must be awakened before it lulls itself back to sleep with familiar excuses. If you pass by this call, you will continue to live, but you will live in a half-awake state, not desperate enough to cry out, yet not alert enough to step into a deeper dimension. I do not want you to live that way. I did not create you to exist by habit or to endure through resignation. I call you into a life of awareness, where you know why you rise each morning and why you do not give up even when everything is still unclear. Let me touch the deepest part of you right now. Do not listen only with a mind that analyzes right and wrong, gain and loss. Listen with a soul that longs to live in alignment with its true purpose. You have grown accustomed to postponing spiritual decisions, telling yourself that you will return to them later, that you will be more serious when you have time. But my child, time does not automatically make you ready. Only a response given at the moment of calling opens the next step. I am not asking you to understand everything. I am simply inviting you to trust enough not to turn away. Top of form, my beloved child. The moments now unfolding before you are not an unconscious extension of yesterday, nor are they a vague transition you can casually pass by and return to later. These are decisive moments where you either choose to rise and step into the depth of life I have been quietly preparing for you, or continue circling familiar paths, persuading yourself that such a life is safe enough. But, my child, that false sense of safety has stolen from you what is most precious, wholeness. I did not create you to live a repetitive life, existing by reflex and habit alone. I am calling you into a life with direction, depth, and meaning, a life that requires you to dare to respond when you are called. I test your faith not because I find pleasure in your struggle. I am not one who watches you from a distance to see how long you can endure. I test your faith because faith, if never placed under pressure, remains only a beautiful idea spoken with ease. A faith that has never been shaken does not know what it truly stands upon. A faith that has never been required will never discover the real strength I have placed within it. You often think faith is the feeling of peace when everything is in order. But I tell you this, true faith reveals itself most clearly when you must walk forward without any visible guarantees. Many times you have asked me in silence, why is everything taking so long? Why hasn't the answer come? Why are the knots I have prayed over for so long still not undone? I hear every one of those questions, and I do not fault you for asking. But, my beloved child, you must understand something deeper than what your eyes can see. I do not delay because I lack power. I am not slow because I hesitate or forget. Everything I do unfolds in perfect timing, a timing that aligns not only with external circumstances, but also with your inner maturity. What you call slow often does not lie in my actions, but in your readiness. I do not withhold blessings as dangling rewards to test your patience. I am preparing the vessel that will carry those blessings, and that vessel is you. If I were to pour when the vessel is still cracked, the blessing would become a burden. If I were to open the door when you are not yet steady, what should be a breakthrough would become a crushing weight. I love you too much to give you something before you can stand firm under its weight. You see only the surface of the days, the unfinished matters, the unanswered prayers, the roads still veiled in mist. But I see the entire chain of decisions shaping your destiny. I see how each time you choose to keep believing while your heart is weary, a quiet strength is being built. I see how each time you do not turn away, do not shrink back, do not close your heart, the foundation within you grows stronger than you realize. What you call standing still is, in truth, growth in depth, a kind of growth not easily recognized by the naked eye. My beloved child, faith that is never shaken cannot stand firm. A tree that has never faced strong winds will not grow roots deep enough to remain when a storm arrives. In the same way, a faith that has never been tested will collapse when confronted with greater responsibility. I am not preparing you for a small season. I am preparing you for what will require you to stand not only for yourself, but for others as well. That is why I allow the winds to blow, why I allow the ground to tremble, not to knock you down, but to drive your roots deeper into me. At times you think that if I truly loved you, I would have made everything easier. But, my child, true love is not the removal of every challenge. It is leading you through challenges so you may become who you were created to be. I do not want you to live your entire life in a state of just enough, simply because you were never pressed to trust fully. I do not want you to look back with regret, realizing you were so close, yet did not dare to take one more step. These moments are inviting you to make an inner choice, quiet, unannounced, yet profoundly formative. You can choose to rise in faith, even while your knees tremble, or you can continue to delay, continue walking the familiar circles, reassuring yourself that tomorrow will be different. But, my beloved child, tomorrow does not change on its own if today you do not choose differently. I am here not to force you, but to call you. I do not push you across the threshold. I stand beside you and wait for you to step through in the freedom of your own will. Remember this, I am not restraining your breakthrough. I am making you strong enough to sustain it. I am not sealing your future. I am enlarging your heart so it can contain the future I have appointed. You see the present moment with impatience. I see the entire journey with eternal understanding. And because I clearly see who you will become, I am not as hurried as you wish, yet I am never as late as you fear. Do not let these moments pass without meaning. Allow your faith to be awakened, stretched, and drawn beyond the familiar. For on the other side of testing is not loss, but maturity. On the other side of shaking is not collapse, but true stability. And on the other side of the choice you make today is a more complete life, the life I have prepared for a long time, and which is waiting for you to enter with a whole heart of trust. My beloved child, pause right in this moment and listen with your whole being, not merely with the mind that is accustomed to analyzing, comparing, and reacting, but with the deepest part of you where your spirit has been waiting to be awakened. I am speaking, not to add another idea to your thoughts, but to light a lamp within you. For there are things that, if heard only with the mind, will quickly be forgotten, but if heard with the spirit, they become life. I know you have been stretched thin by too much noise, the noise of work, of responsibilities, of worry, of expectations left unmet, and within that constant clamor, You have gradually grown accustomed to living without truly listening. The enemy has taken advantage of this. He does not need to come with violence or obvious blows. He comes through prolonged distraction, through accumulated weariness, through repetitive thoughts that leave your mind tangled and exhausted. He sows in you a fatigue so deep that you no longer have the strength to ask deeper questions. He does not make you doubt through crude lies, but through questions that sound reasonable. If I truly care, why are you still here if I am speaking? Why do you hear nothing if I love you? Why is everything still so difficult, and my child? Those questions do not come seeking answers. They come to make you stop searching. He whispers that I am silent. He convinces you that silence means distance. But my beloved, silence is not always absence. There are seasons of quiet that I allow so you may learn to listen more deeply, no longer relying on surface emotions or easily recognizable signs. I do not disappear when you feel nothing. I do not leave when the excitement fades. In the very moments you think I am not speaking, I am doing a more delicate work removing your dependence on noise, so you can recognize my voice even when I speak in a whisper. The enemy has used people and circumstances to distort how you see me. He uses relationships that wounded you to make you believe I will also disappoint you. He uses long seasons of waiting to convince you that I am delayed. He uses closed doors to lead you to conclude that I have turned away. But my child, not everything that brings pain comes to destroy you. Some things I allow not to take life from you, but to strip away the layers that keep you from discerning my voice among so many others. No attack against you goes beyond my permission, not because I desire your pain, but because I desire your growth. You cannot learn to recognize my voice if you only hear me when everything is calm. You must learn to discern my voice in the storm, when the winds howl and the waves crash without rest. You must know that my voice does not compete with the noise. My voice passes through it. When you learn this, no circumstance will be able to take away your inner direction. I do not come to warn you about the end of the body, for the body will pass according to the order of time. I come to warn you about something far more dangerous, the stagnation of the soul. A soul that no longer longs will slowly lose its ability to sense life. A soul accustomed to postponement will gradually lose its sensitivity to the call. A soul that stops seeking will convince itself it is full, while in truth it is living more shallowly than it realizes. Spiritual stagnation is not loud, it lulls. It does not frighten you, it makes you comfortable. I also come to warn you about spiritual blindness, when you look but do not see, hear but do not understand. You may read much, hear much, know much, yet still fail to recognize what I am doing right before you. Blindness is not a lack of information, it is a lack of wakefulness. And when you are no longer awake, you will measure everything by the standards of the world, fast or slow, gain or loss, easy or hard. You will miss the depth of what I am weaving through every small detail. And there is also spiritual deafness when you no longer respond to the call, not because I am not speaking, but because you have grown accustomed to letting my voice pass without response. You hear, but you no longer pause. You sense, but you no longer act. You know, but you no longer allow what you know to change how you live. This is a very dangerous state, because it allows you to continue existing without truly living. My beloved child, many people live a long time, but never truly live. They fulfill obligations, to achieve goals, maintain appearances, yet their souls have never been awakened. Many are still breathing, but have never awakened from the trance of habit and fear. Many exist, but have never conquered, not because they are weak, but because they have never entered the true battle within themselves. I do not want you to become one of them. That is why I'm calling you now. Not tomorrow, not when you are less busy, not when everything is clearer. I call you in the midst of your weariness, in the middle of your confusion, in the very storm you are facing. For if you learn to hear me here, you will hear me anywhere. If you recognize my voice in the chaos, you will never truly be lost. Open your heart. Do not resist. Do not defend yourself. Do not analyze too quickly. Let your spirit be touched. I do not come to frighten you, but to awaken you from a life of mere existence. I come to lead you into true life, where you do not merely survive each day, but live with purpose, with wakefulness, with a victory that begins from within. And when you choose to listen right now, you will realize this: my voice was never silent. You are simply ready to hear it now. My beloved child, I did not call you to live suspended between two shores, nor did I call you to merely get by each day with a weary heart. I called you to overcome. I longed to see you stand upright, no longer bowing before the shadows of the past, no longer trembling at the voices that once made you feel small. I want you to live in the authority I have placed upon you, not the authority of pride, but the authority of one who knows to whom they belong, who knows why they were created, and who knows they no longer need permission from fear in order to move forward. Before you ever saw the light of your first day, before the foundations of the earth were laid, I knew you. I called you by name in eternity. I planted within you an identity not defined by what you did wrong, nor confined by what others think of you. Yet, my beloved child, that identity has been buried for far too long beneath layers of judgment, expectations, failures, and the countless times you have exhausted yourself with self-blame. I want you to rise above every limit the world has built around you. The world loves to put you in a box. This is as far as you can go. You're not good enough. You're not clean enough. You're not lucky enough. You're not strong enough. These molds are designed to keep you small, to make you resize your dreams to fit your fears. There are cages not made of iron, but of words, memories, and distorted lessons you absorb through pain. You have lived in those cages so long that you began to call them personality, to call them destiny, to call them reality. But my child, I did not create you to live by the warped reality of fear. I created you to live by the truth of life. I want you to break the patterns that have imprisoned you for years, not only the patterns imposed by others, but also the ones you built to protect yourself. You learned to wear a hard shell so no one would see your vulnerability. You learned to use busyness to avoid the emptiness inside. You learned to smile while cracking within, to say I'm fine while holding your breath just to survive. My beloved child, I do not condemn you for this. I know you were trying to survive in seasons when you had nothing to hold on to. But now I am calling you out of that temporary way of living. I do not want you merely to exist. I want you to be healed, to be grounded, to be free. I want you to step into the identity I have written for you, the identity of one who is loved, chosen, and entrusted. This identity is not a title for boasting. It is a foundation on which to stand. When you know who you are in me, you will no longer be swept away by voices that change from day to day. You will no longer need approval to feel valuable. You will no longer use achievements to fill the emptiness within. You will no longer place your life in the hands of those who are quick to leave. You will learn to walk with the peace of one who knows they belong to the Father's house and therefore has no need to live in fear. But for you to step into that identity, I must touch the deepest places within you, the places you avoid, the regions you locked away and labeled long gone, even though they still quietly control you. I touch the wounds you pretend no longer hurt. I touch the insecurities you hide behind strength. I touch the fears you cloak in words of faith that sound right, yet lack inner truth. My beloved child, I see beyond every mask. I do not only hear your words, I hear your heart. I do not only observe your actions, I see the motives behind them, and I do not come to shame you. I come to set you free. I am your Father, and I know you. You cannot hide from me. Yet what grieves me is this: you are trying to hide from yourself. You have convinced yourself that you are fine so you don't have to face how tired you truly are. You tell yourself you trust completely so you don't have to admit that your heart is trembling. You tell yourself you have surrendered, while your hands are still tightly gripping timelines, outcomes, and scenarios you want to control. My beloved child, I do not fault you for wanting safety, but you must understand this: control is not peace. Control is only a thin garment covering fear. True peace comes when you dare to place what you cannot hold into the hands of the one who holds all things. You have come this far not to learn how to perform well. I did not lead you through so many seasons of testing just so you could become someone who says the right things, looks okay, and appears strong by the world's standards. I brought you this far so you could be transformed. I want you to become real in trust, real in humility, real in dependence on me, real in the courage to face yourself. I want you to dare to say, I need you, not as a slogan, but as a heart rightly placed. For when you dare to be real, I can truly heal. When you dare to open, I can truly fill. When you dare to let go, I can place into your hands what you could never create on your own. Listen closely, my beloved child. The victory I desire for you is not merely overcoming a situation, escaping a hardship, or receiving what you are praying for. The victory I want for you begins within: victory over pretending, victory over hidden fear, victory over the habit of self-strain, victory over relentless self-blame, victory over the cycle that keeps pulling you back to old places. For if you change only the outside while the inside remains bound, you will simply build a new cage with a different shape. But if you are free within, you will stand firm anywhere, walk through any season, and still carry life within you. I am calling you right now, not when you are perfectly ready, but in the middle of your confusion. I am lifting you higher than limited perspectives, higher than the old stories you tell about yourself, higher than the judgments of others. I am inviting you out of the shadows of trying to look okay and into the light of truth, where you no longer have to carry everything alone. I want you to stand in the authority of one who belongs to me, unshaken by noise, unbowed by the past, unruled by fear. So, my beloved child, do not run from this moment. Do not rush to change the subject. Do not hurry to fill the space with noise. Stay with me one breath longer. Let me peel away each layer of pretense, not to leave you exposed, but to make you whole. Let me teach you how to release without fearing loss, how to trust without seeing ahead, how to walk without controlling every step. For I did not call you to pretend. I called you to be transformed. I did not call you to survive. I called you to overcome. My beloved child, there have been moments along your journey when I called to you very gently, very clearly, yet you chose to turn away, not because you could not hear me, but because you heard me too clearly and were afraid of what change would require. I spoke to you in the quietest moments, when your heart was still enough to discern what was my voice and what was your own. But you learned to grow comfortable with delay. You told yourself, it's not time yet. I need more time. When I'm more ready, I will do it. And so those days followed one another without noise, without crisis, simply a series of moments in which you stepped back from what I was opening before you. I know you did not deliberately resist me. You did not stand up and declare that you were rejecting me. You only postponed. You only slowed down. You placed my voice behind what you considered more urgent, safer, more familiar. But, my beloved child, prolonged delay can be just as destructive as open rebellion. It slowly hardens the heart. It dulls your spiritual sensitivity. It trains you to hear without responding, to know without acting, to be urged, yet remain still. And gradually, you begin to believe that what I say is not truly necessary for your present life. There were times when I warned you not with thunder or great upheaval, but through a gentle unease in your spirit, through a door closing at just the right moment, through an interruption you could not explain. Yet you learned to overlook those signs. You called them coincidence, something minor, probably nothing. You became accustomed to negotiating with my voice just this once. I'll do it later. Let me wait a little longer. You did not realize that every time you said later, you were teaching yourself that my voice could be placed behind your convenience. When I say now, it is not because I am impatient. I say it because I see what you do not yet see. I see the crossroads ahead, the time-sensitive opportunities, the doors that do not remain open forever. Yet you respond with later, because you assume time will always be there to serve you. When I say time is short, I am not trying to frighten you, but to awaken you. Still, you reply, when I am ready, as though your readiness were the measure of my plan. When I say step forward, I am offering you a chance to grow in faith. But you answer, maybe, because you want certainty before obedience. My beloved child, I understand the fear hidden beneath those delays. You fear making mistakes. You fear losing control. You fear that if you follow my voice, you will have to let go of what is familiar, of what has made you feel secure. You fear that true obedience will leave you with no way back. I do not despise your fear. I am only grieved to see you allow it to govern the most important decisions of your life. And yet today, I am calling you once again, not because you did everything right in the past, not because you have proven anything. I do not call you because you deserve it, but because my mercy is not limited by your history of failure. That mercy does not diminish with the number of times you delayed. It is deeper than the times you turned away, wider than your hesitation, more enduring than your unfaithfulness. I do not measure my love by how well you perform, but by who I am. My love is stronger than the quiet rebellion within you. Even when you do not name it rebellion, I know there were times when you placed your own will above my voice. Yet my love does not withdraw when you do that. I do not close the door when you break promises. I do not erase your name from eternal purpose because you moved more slowly than I hoped. I remain there, waiting not with bitter disappointment, but with the patience of a father who knows his child needs time to learn how to trust. My patience is greater than all your hesitation. You think I have grown weary of calling you again and again. You think I have become discouraged because you promise and then delay. But, my beloved child, I do not grow exhausted as you do. I do not change as you do. I do not love according to fluctuating emotions. My patience is not weakness. It is strength expressed through love. I know when to wait, when to call, when to be silent, and when to speak once more. And this is most important: the purpose I have for you has not changed. Even though you once lost your way, your missteps did not force me to rewrite my plan in panic. Your delays did not confuse me. I accounted for your weakness from the beginning. I knew you would not be perfect. I knew there would be moments when you would hesitate. But I also know that what I planted within you is strong enough not to be destroyed by old patterns. My beloved child, the opportunity I am placing before you today is not a meaningless repetition. This is not a vague invitation meant to comfort you temporarily before you return to your old ways. This is a significant intersection, where you are invited to choose differently, not by fleeting emotion, but by a deep, inward decision. You can continue to delay, continue to negotiate, continue to say later, or you can choose to respond, even while your heart trembles, even while you cannot yet see the entire road. I do not ask you to be perfect before you obey. I only invite you to be honest, honest about your fear, honest about your weariness, honest about how long you have delayed. For when you stop pretending that you are fine, I can begin true healing. When you stop saying maybe, I can lead you with certainty. When you stop waiting until you feel ready, you will discover that the greatest readiness is simply placing your heart in my hands. Today, I do not recall your past to condemn you. I recall it so you may recognize grace, so you may understand that without my steadfast love, you would no longer have the opportunity to hear these words. The fact that you are still being called, still being invited, still being reminded is proof that I have not let go. I have not given up. I have not changed my mind about you. So, my beloved child, do not let this moment pass as the others did. Do not merely nod inwardly and continue as before. Pause, listen, and respond not with grand promises, but with one concrete step of obedience, however small, for in that step, you will discover that I am not only the one who calls you, but the one who walks with you. And this time, if you choose to step forward, you will not walk alone. My beloved child, listen with the full depth of your soul. What you are facing is not random resistance, nor are they meaningless collisions of life. The enemy is not concentrating his force against you because of where you stand today, but because of where you are being led tomorrow. He is not afraid of your present. He is afraid of the future that has already been written over your life. He sees what you have not yet fully recognized. He reads the lines of destiny that I inscribed into your soul before you could even name yourself. And because of this, he seeks every way to slow your steps, to sow doubt, to lure you into delay, to keep you lingering in a half-awake state, neither fully asleep nor truly alive. He fears your awakening. For when you awaken, you no longer live by reflexes shaped by fear or old habits. When you awaken, you begin to ask the right questions, to listen with clarity, to realize that your life is not a scattered chain of disconnected events, but a journey with purpose. He fears the moment you open your eyes and see that the things that once made you feel small no longer hold the power you imagined. He fears the day you stop defining yourself by the past, by failure, by the judgments that once pressed heavily upon you. For when you awaken, you are no longer easily controlled by voices that masquerade as truth. He fears your obedience, not superficial obedience done for appearance or correctness, but obedience that flows from a heart that has chosen to trust me more than itself. For when you obey, you step outside his realm of control. Obedience leads you onto paths he cannot predict. Obedience renders ineffective the schemes designed to lead you astray. He knows that the moment you truly follow what I instruct, even one small step, the entire landscape begins to shift, and that is something he cannot endure. He fears your transformation, not the outward change that others quickly notice, but the quiet inner renewal that unfolds within. As you begin to be transformed, you no longer react as you once did. You are no longer triggered by old wounds or pulled by familiar emotions. You think differently, choose differently, stand differently. And when a person is truly transformed, they become a profound threat to darkness. Because light does not need to shout to dispel the night, it only needs to be present. He fears your deep communion with me, for that communion is not built on formality, not dependent on circumstances, not shaken by emotional highs and lows. When you enter into true fellowship with me, You begin to hear my voice more clearly than the noise of the world. You learn to recognize me, not only in times of calm, but in the midst of storms. And my beloved, a person who can hear my voice in the storm is not easily broken. He fears this, because he cannot control someone who is led from within. He fears the moment you realize who you truly are in me, not the identity society assigns you, not the role you carry, not the labels that have been placed upon you, but your true identity chosen, loved, entrusted. When you grasp this, you no longer strain to prove your worth. You stop living to please everyone. You are no longer afraid of loss, because you know you belong to the one who never loses you. And it is this freedom that causes the enemy to tremble. For the moment you awaken, the chains that have bound your family for generations will begin to break. There are cycles that do not originate from personal decisions, but from inherited patterns, shared fears, repeated failures, familiar wrong choices. You once called them destiny, family traits, the way things are. But my beloved, when you awaken, you will be the first to say, this pattern ends here. And when one person stands up in the light, the entire current behind them begins to change direction. The moment you awaken, generational patterns will come to an end, not because you are perfect, but because you have chosen differently. You no longer respond from old programming. You no longer repeat ways of living that wounded generations before you. You establish new boundaries, new choices, new words. And though these shifts may seem quiet, their power is far greater than you imagine. One decision made in the light can reshape an entire lineage in silence. The moment you awaken, assignments set against your household will lose their authority. What was designed to divide, to drain, to exhaust will no longer find ground to stand on. Not because challenges disappear, but because you are no longer standing in the same position. You have stepped out of the role of victim and into the place of stewardship. And when you stand in the right position, what once held power over you will simply fall away. The moment you awaken, those whose destinies are tied to yours will find their deliverance. You may not know all of them. They may be your children, people you have not yet met, souls waiting for the light you carry. But my beloved, your life is not only about you. When you are freed, you open the way for others. When you stand, others find a place to lean. When you dare to believe, others dare to hope. This is why the enemy wants you asleep, because he knows your awakening will ignite the awakening of many more. The enemy fears you because I have placed my word within you, not for you to keep to yourself, but to live, speak, and act from it. When you rise in your true identity, you will carry light into places darkness has occupied for years. That light does not come through argument or competition, but through the presence of a life made new. And as Scripture declares, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. My beloved, this is not merely a verse, it is the reality I am establishing over your life. So, do not be surprised when resistance arises. Do not be shaken when pressure increases just before significant steps forward. Do not question why things feel harder when you draw closer to me. These signs do not mean you are on the wrong path. Often, they confirm that you are on the right one. The enemy only fights what holds value. He only seeks to extinguish lights capable of illuminating the way. Be strong. My beloved, I am very near. I am not watching from a distance. I am walking with you through every step of awakening. I know you still tremble, still carry questions, still have places that are not yet healed, but I do not wait for perfection before I use you. I work through willing hearts, and your willingness, however small, is enough for me to continue writing what is great. Rise up not by your own strength, but by trust. Walk forward not because you feel fearless, but because you know I am leading the way. And remember this, you are not being opposed because you are weak, but because the light within you has begun to shine. I have placed my word within you, and when you live in alignment with it, darkness will have no choice but to retreat. My beloved child, this is precisely why I am calling to you with a strong voice, without detours, without softening my words, not because I lack gentleness, but because I love you enough not to pretend that everything is calm when danger is so close. I speak as a father standing at the beginning of a road, seeing what his child has not yet perceived. When a child is walking toward fire, a father does not kneel to whisper or weigh his words to make them sound pleasant. He calls out loudly, even shouts, not because anger has erupted, but because love is racing against time. And now I am calling out to your spirit in that same way, not to frighten you, but to pull you back from what would wound you more deeply than you realize. You are very close to a breakthrough, closer than you think. Yet at the same time, you are also close to a spiritual danger, closer than you recognize. These two often walk side by side. When a new door is about to open, distractions multiply. When the moment of breakthrough draws near, the noise grows louder, not to stop you with brute force, but to lull you to sleep with familiarity. That is why I cannot speak softly. I need you awake. The danger is not physical death. A person can live a long time while the soul has quietly closed itself off long before. The real danger is distraction, when you allow secondary things to take the place of what is essential. When busyness substitutes for presence. When doing much is mistaken for living rightly. Distraction does not arrive like a storm. It comes like a thin mist, light enough to escape notice, persistent enough to soak into your habits. And then you no longer hear clearly, not because I am silent, but because the ears of your heart have grown accustomed to noise. The danger is disobedience dressed in the clothing of reason. You know what I am inviting you into, yet you negotiate. You hear, but you delay. You sense, but you postpone. Disobedience rarely appears with a fierce face. It usually comes with reasonable explanations. Not yet. Later. There's too much to take care of. When I'm more ready, and each time you choose to delay, you train your heart to believe that my voice can stand in line behind other priorities, not because I am weak, but because you are allowing convenience to lead. The danger is missing the timing of my guidance. Some doors do not remain open forever. Some moments are designed for you to step through with timely obedience. When you miss the timing, you do not lose my love, but you may lose the ease of the journey. You will learn similar lessons, but by detours, with greater weariness, with unnecessary wounds. I do not want that for you. So I call out loudly to help you stop in time. The danger is ignoring my voice once again. For every time you ignore it, sensitivity dulls. Each time you pass it by, another layer of hardness forms around your heart. It is not that I stop speaking, it is that you grow accustomed to not responding, and then you begin to live by inertia, doing what is familiar, choosing what is easy, walking well-worn paths. You may still do good things and say the right words, but the first fire has begun to fade. I do not want you merely to be right, I want you to be alive. My beloved child, I call out strongly because I am protecting you from the negligence you have learned to tolerate. I am not trying to control your every step, I am trying to keep you in the light. I do not warn you to make you anxious, I warn you to awaken you. I do not raise my voice out of anger, I raise it out of love. True love is not afraid to disturb when your safety is at stake. Understand this, the breakthrough you are longing for does not come from doing one more thing, but from standing in the right position. The right position is where you hear and respond as soon as I speak. The right position is where you release distraction to preserve presence. The right position is where you choose obedience before you fully understand. And it is there that blessing becomes light. Guidance becomes clear. And your steps become steady. I know you are tired. I know you have been carrying many roles. I know you have tried to keep everything together. But, my beloved child, effort cannot replace obedience. Busyness cannot replace listening. And outward results cannot compensate for inner depletion. That is why I am calling you back, not back to a ritual, but back to relationship. There, my voice is not drowned out. Your steps do not drift, and your heart is not divided. At times you wonder why I do not speak more gently. You long for a soft word of comfort. But my child, there are seasons that call for comfort, and there are moments that require awakening. Today is the second, not to frighten you, but to make you alive. As Scripture clearly reminds us, therefore keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour. Matthew 2:5-13. Watchfulness is not anxiety. Watchfulness is living with true focus. Pause for a moment. Turn down the noise. Lay aside the things competing for your attention, and listen not only with your ears, but with a decision. I am calling loudly to your spirit because you are very close to what you have been asking for. Do not let distraction steal this moment. Do not let disobedience delay what I am opening. Do not let one more act of ignoring blur the path ahead. My beloved child, I am here clear, near, and patient. I call you not to accuse you, but to draw you into life. Respond. You do not need a speech, only one concrete step of obedience. And when you step forward, you will realize that this strong voice was never a threat. It was the embrace of a father who saw the danger ahead and ran in time to hold you, to lead you, and to bring you into the season of breakthrough you have been waiting for all along. My beloved child, listen very carefully, not only with your ears, but with the full depth of your soul. What I am speaking to you now is not a solitary word meant for a single moment, nor is it a message useful only for your present circumstances. I am opening before you a wider, deeper perspective, so that you may see how what I am doing today is inseparably connected to what I have been doing throughout the ages. My ways do not drift with passing emotions. My patterns do not change with human fashions. The rhythm by which I move love, warning, mercy, and purpose has flowed through history like a steadfast river. And today that river is reaching your life. You may think that you are standing alone before weighty decisions, that the pressure you feel is unique, that the inner tensions you carry have never existed before. But, my child, you are standing within a long procession of those who once heard my call, who were warned, who were shown mercy, who were invited to step into purpose. Those who listened found life in the wilderness. Those who obeyed were lifted beyond their own strength. Those who paid attention to even the quietest whispers walked into destinies they could never have engineered for themselves. And those who ignored, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they lacked alertness, began to fade from within long before their season truly ended. I want you to understand this clearly. I do not change my standard to accommodate you. I change you so that you can stand firm within my standard. When I warn, it is not a threat, it is love moving ahead of danger. When I call, it is not pressure, it is purpose, finding the right person. When I am patient, it is not because I am uncertain, it is because I am waiting for maturity. It has always been this way. I reveal myself before I act in great ways. I call before I shift the landscape. I give signs before I open doors, so that those who are attentive may enter with trust, not be swept along by panic. My beloved child, the message you are hearing today is not new in the hollow sense the world celebrates. It is new because it is alive, alive just as when I whispered to those who came before you, thundered to generations who dared to rise, and proclaimed truth to those willing to obey. The content does not change, but the listeners do, and every generation is given the same choice to listen or not listen, to respond or delay, to step forward or remain still. I show no favoritism. I am faithful. I am not impulsive. I am consistent. There is a rhythm you must learn to recognize. First comes love. I reveal who I am, who you are, and the bond between us. Then comes warning. I point out crossroads, traps, and things that seem harmless but will erode life if ignored. Then comes mercy. I give more time, more opportunity, more light. And finally comes purpose. I invite you to step into what I have prepared, not by your own strength, but through obedience. That rhythm never disappears. When you skip a beat, the journey becomes uneven. When you keep the rhythm, your steps become steady. I know you are living in a noisy age, where every voice competes to be heard, where attention is fragmented, where speed is praised more than depth. That is why the greatest danger is not a lack of information, but a lack of attentiveness. One can know much and still be lost, hear much and still not live. My child, I do not need you to gather more knowledge. I need you to tune your heart to the right frequency. Listening is not a passive act. It is an active choice to place me above every other voice. Look at history with awakened eyes. Those who survived were not the strongest, the smartest, or the most numerous, but those who listened and acted. Those who were lifted up were not those who never stumbled, but those who stumbled and rose again in obedience. Those who entered destiny were not those without fear, but those who laid fear down in order to walk by instruction. And those who ignored, though they may have continued outwardly, lost life within very early, because they became accustomed to hearing without responding. My beloved child, I am speaking to you today, not to rehearse history as a distant lesson, but to help you recognize where you stand within that flow. Which part of the rhythm are you in? Are you receiving love, or taking warnings lightly? Are you leaning on mercy to delay, or using mercy as strength to obey? I ask not to condemn you, but to guide you back to the right place, the place where you can hear clearly and walk lightly. Let this be firmly written on your heart. I do not speak to take away joy. I speak to protect life. I do not call to frighten you. I call to awaken you. I do not warn to bind you. I warn to set you free. And I do not repeat ancient words to weary you. I repeat them because truth does not need to be reinvented to remain true. As Scripture says with simple and powerful clarity, today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts. Hebrews 3:1-5. Today is not a vague idea. It is the moment of response. My beloved child, choose to be one who listens, so that you may live. Choose obedience, so that you may be lifted. Choose attentiveness, so that you may step into destiny. Do not let delay disguise itself as wisdom. Do not let noise blur guidance. Do not let old habits extinguish new alertness. I am speaking as I have always spoken, and I will continue to speak until love completes its purpose in you. My beloved child, look deeply into my word, not as one rereading old pages of history, but as one standing before a mirror to see who you are today. For every story recorded there does more than recount what once happened. It carries the breath of what is happening now and what is about to unfold. My word is both memory and promise, both a milestone and a pathway. Within it are whispers of love, calls to purpose, warnings wrapped in grace, and light that reveals how I am working with you in the present. If you read only to know, you will miss it. If you read to listen, you will be led. You ask why I speak with urgency. You wonder why my voice is raised, why I repeat words that seem familiar. My child, look at how I have always spoken in my word. I have never waited for disaster to erupt before lifting my voice. I have never waited until humanity had no escape before offering direction. I always speak beforehand, not to frighten, but to save, not to impose, but to protect. My warnings come before the crisis. My voice goes ahead of danger. My guidance precedes the impact. This is no coincidence. It is how I love. Look at Lot not as a distant figure, but as a mirror reflecting you. I drew Lot out of Sodom, not when the fire had already fallen, not when the ground was shaking, not when everything had collapsed. I sent the angels ahead of time while there was still space to hear, to choose, to move. I did not wait for destruction to prove my warning true. I gave the warning so destruction would not have the final word. Yet you also know this: Lot was saved not merely because I spoke, but because he moved when he was called. My word opens the way. Obedience sets foot upon it. My beloved child, here is a principle you must grasp. Grace does not cancel responsibility. Grace creates the opportunity to respond. I speak in advance not because I am impatient, but because I see farther. I raise my voice not because I am angry, but because I am moving faster than danger. When you hear my urgency, it is because I am standing at the beginning of the road you are about to take, seeing what you cannot yet see. You may see a small decision. I see a long chain of consequences. You may see immediate convenience. I see the cost that comes later. And so, I call. Understand this: the stories in my word are not confined to the past. They are prophecies in motion, not by repeating events exactly, but by repeating principles. When you read about Lot, you are reading how I act today. I send warnings ahead of time. I open exits ahead of time. I grant time to choose ahead of time. I do not wait until you are exhausted to speak. I do not wait until consequences are irreversible to guide you. I speak while you can still turn back. This is love, my beloved child. My urgency is not a meaningless alarm. It is the heartbeat of a father. Some dangers do not roar, they whisper. Some traps do not threaten, they invite. Some choices do not look like evil, they wear the disguise of it's fine. And because they are subtle, I must speak clearly. Because they are gentle, I must speak firmly, not to make you afraid, but to keep you awake. Look again at my word and recognize its familiar rhythm. I reveal, then warn, then guide, then wait for your response. When you listen, you are protected. When you obey, you are lifted. When you delay, you place yourself in unnecessary risk. I do not change this rhythm to suit your convenience. I keep this rhythm to preserve your life. For the greatest danger is not ignorance. The greatest danger is knowing and not responding. My beloved child, I know you may grow weary of hearing repeated warnings. You may think, why is it always be careful? Listen closely. Keep moving, but if the road ahead has a sharp bend, the one who loves you will tell you to slow down again and again, not because they doubt your ability to drive, but because they value your life. I am the same. I repeat myself, not for lack of creativity, but because love never grows tired of protecting. Look at Lot once more and draw the lesson for today when the warning comes. Do not wait for dramatic signs to confirm it. When the call sounds, do not negotiate for delay. When guidance is given, do not wait until you feel perfectly ready. The greatest readiness is timely obedience. You do not need to understand everything to move. You only need to trust enough to step. And when you step, the light will open for the next step. My beloved child, I speak urgently because I am leading you ahead of danger, not pushing you into it. I call out loudly because I am opening the way to blessing, not withdrawing what is good. I repeat my warnings because I want you to take the shorter, lighter, healthier path, the path of obedience. As Scripture gently yet powerfully reminds us, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Psalm 3:2-8. This is not merely an ancient promise, it is a present reality. So look at my word as one receiving a living map. Do not read to argue, read to walk. Do not listen to nod, listen to act. Do not wait for the fire to leave, go while the light still shines. For my warnings always come before the crisis. My voice always goes ahead of danger. And my guidance, if you follow it, will always go ahead of the impact, leading you to the place where you are kept, lifted, and made whole. My beloved child, I am trying to spare you from unnecessary detours, paths you have walked too many times, lessons that should not have to be relearned through exhaustion. I do not fault you for being slow. My heart aches because you have grown weary. I am working to shorten what the enemy wants to prolong, for he knows that if you keep circling, your strength will drain, your vision will blur, and your faith will be worn thin. I am seeking to accelerate what has been delayed, not with human haste, but with heavenly precision. Yet, my child, there is one thing that cannot be replaced. You must listen, not listening merely to know, but listening in order to move, not listening for comfort, but listening in order to obey. I do not rescue you by making everything easily understandable to reason. I rescue you by leading you at the right time. There are paths you will never leave if you rely only on logic, because logic will ask countless questions, none of which can open the door. Listening is different. Listening places you into the flow of life, where a single, quiet instruction can alter an entire direction. That is why I tell you, look at Elijah and the widow of Zarephath, not to study an old story, but to recognize how I am acting today. I told Elijah to leave a place of supernatural provision. Pause and notice that detail. Elijah did not leave because the supply had dried up. He left while provision was still there. To reason, this makes no sense. Why leave a safe place? Why abandon a proven source? But, my beloved child, I do not provide only for today, I guide for tomorrow. There are places that are good but whose season has ended. There are streams that once flowed but are about to run dry. I called Elijah away before the drought came, not to make him lack, but to keep him from being trapped. His obedience did not rest on visible guarantees. It rested on relationship. And I told the widow to do something that seemed even more illogical: to offer her last meal. My child, I know that sounds like too much to ask. She had no surplus. She was standing at the very edge of hope. Yet it is precisely at that edge that I do not look for abundance, I look for trust. I do not need large quantities. I need a willing heart. That woman did not give because she foresaw the miracle. She gave because she heard and believed. Her obedience in uncertainty opened the door to miraculous provision, not once, but day by day, meal by meal, enough for the entire season of famine. My beloved child, notice what they share in common. Both Elijah and the widow obeyed instructions that made no sense to human reasoning. Yet that very illogic was perfectly aligned with my rhythm. Reason asks, what if this fails? Listening asks, what are you saying? Reason measures risk. Listening walks in relationship. And it is that relationship that unlocks blessings logic can never reach. For blessing is not merely a result. Blessing is a flow, and it requires you to stand in the right place for it to pass through. I am trying to shorten your journey. But, my child, a journey is shortened only when you stop negotiating with my voice. Each time you hear but do not act, you add another bend in the road. Each time you delay, you prolong an old season. I do not speak to pressure you, I speak to lighten your load. For detours cost more than time, they drain joy, strength, and sensitivity. I want you to walk the straight path, not one without challenges, but one filled with purpose. Understand this: the enemy does not need you to commit a great failure. He only needs you to delay a small obedience. He does not need you to turn away. He only needs you to stand still. And while you stand still, he stretches things out. I am different. I accelerate through obedience. One step of obedience today can spare you 10 weary steps tomorrow. One small decision to put me first can open a stream of ongoing provision that you could never manufacture on your own. My beloved child, I am not asking you to abandon reason. I am asking you to put it in its proper place. Reason is a good servant, but a poor master. When reason leads, you will go only as far as what you already know. When listening leads, you will arrive where I have prepared. Elijah did not know what awaited him in Zarephath. The widow did not know how the flour and oil would last. But they knew one thing: I had spoken. And for them, that was enough. Let your listening heart unlock what reasoning cannot reach. Do not wait for certainty before obeying. Certainty often comes after the step. Do not wait for abundance before believing. Faith is refined in lack. Do not wait for everything to make sense. I often work beyond familiar frameworks so that the glory belongs to me, not to your calculations. My beloved child, I am trying again to spare you from more detours, from repeating the same lesson at a higher cost. I am working to shorten what the enemy wants, to prolong seasons of weariness, nights of confusion, days of stagnation. I am seeking to accelerate what has been slowed: suspended promises, delayed steps, compressed callings. But the key remains the same: listen and do what you hear. Remember this scripture as a lamp for your feet. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust is not blindness. Trust is placing the right weight in the right place. When you place the weight of your life upon my word, I will place you on the right path. So, my beloved child, do not fear instructions that sound illogical. Do not tremble when I ask you to leave what is familiar. Release what you are holding, or offer what you think is your last. I do not take away to make you lack. I lead you forward to make you whole. I do not close doors to imprison you. I open another way to set you free. Walk into uncertainty not alone, but with me, and you will see today's obedience is the shortest path to tomorrow's miraculous provision. My beloved child, in this present season of your life, I am speaking to you in a way that your natural mind may find difficult to understand, even unsettling. The instructions I give are not meant to challenge your intelligence, but to draw you out of the invisible cage that familiarity has quietly built around you. You will feel a strong pull backward, a pull toward what you know, where you feel in control, where faith is not required to stretch. You will want to cling to what feels safe, to rely on what your eyes can see, your hands can touch, and your reasoning can calculate. But, my child, if you walk only by what is seen, you will never reach what I have already prepared for you. I know how powerful the allure of comfort can be. It whispers, "This is enough. Don't go any farther. Don't complicate things." Comfort convinces you that standing still is a form of wisdom. But, my beloved, miracles have never flowed through comfort. They are not born from preserving the status quo. They do not grow in safe zones. Miracles flow through obedience, through steps you cannot secure with logic, through decisions that place trust above certainty. I do not despise your caution, but I do not want that caution to become a barrier that keeps you from stepping into what is new. When I call you out of familiar places, it is not to strip you of your foundation, but to build a deeper one. There are places that once nurtured you for a season, but if you remain there too long, they become limitations. There are things that were once blessings, but if you cling to them, they turn into burdens. I do not say this to make you fear change, but to help you understand that life is always moving. A river that stops flowing becomes stagnant. Faith that stops stepping forward becomes mere form. My beloved child, you live in a world that trains you to rely on what can be seen: numbers, outcomes, instant feedback. But, my child, my kingdom operates by a different order. I do not begin with abundance, I begin with trust. I do not wait for you to have enough before I work a miracle. I multiply what you believe is not enough. When you hear my voice and dare to place what is small into my hands, I turn it into a living stream. When you obey my voice, I sustain you in the midst of famine, not only famine of resources, but famine of hope, direction, and inner life. At times you will ask yourself, what if I step out and fail? My beloved, I do not measure success the way the world does. To me, true failure is not stepping forward and stumbling. True failure is never stepping forward because you are afraid of stumbling. When you listen to me, even trembling steps are upheld by my hand. Even imperfect decisions are shaped by my guidance. I do not need you to be flawless. I need you to be willing to obey. When you obey my voice, I am not only addressing your immediate needs, I am shaping you for the next season. I sustain you in famine so you learn that your source of life does not come from circumstances, but from relationship. I multiply what is insufficient so you know that your strength is not the limit of my power. I open the heavens over you not merely to bless you, but to teach you how to live under the flow of grace, where you no longer strain to hold on, but learn to open your hands to receive and to give. My beloved child, remember, this obedience may not always feel safe in the moment, but it always leads to life. Comfort may offer temporary peace, but only obedience produces lasting peace. When you choose obedience, you place yourself in the flow of what I am doing now, not merely holding on to what I did in the past. I am not the God of yesterday alone. I am the God who is acting today and leading you into tomorrow. There are miracles that will not happen unless you step out. There are doors that will not open unless you draw near. There are realms of heaven that will not be unveiled unless you dare to believe that my voice is worth following, even when you cannot yet see the entire path. I do not condemn you for feeling fear. I simply invite you not to let fear take the wheel. Let faith lead, faith that is not blind, but attentive to my voice. My beloved child, I know you are being pulled between two currents. One is the safety of what is familiar. The other is the invitation to step out. Safety says, do not risk. My voice says, trust me. Safety promises stability. My voice promises life. You must choose which voice you will listen to, because the voice you follow will determine where you go, and where you go will shape who you become. Let me remind you with Scripture. As a lamp for your feet in this season, the righteous shall live by faith, Romans 1:17. Living by faith does not mean denying reality. It means placing reality under the light of my word. It is choosing to trust me even when circumstances have not yet changed, because you know that the one who rules over reality is the one who is leading you. So, my beloved child, do not fear instructions that seem unreasonable. Do not rush back to comfort simply because you feel uneasy for a moment. Do not cling to the old merely because it is familiar. Listen to me. Walk according to my voice. And when you do, you will see this: what you thought was not enough will be multiplied. Where you believed there was barrenness will be sustained. And over your head, right in the midst of your circumstances, the heavens will be opened. Not because you are strong, but because you chose obedience. My beloved child, look at King Saul, not in order to judge him, but to reflect upon yourself. The story of his life was not recorded so that you would merely read it and close the book, but so that you would recognize how a great destiny can be gradually eroded when obedience is no longer whole. I chose Saul. I anointed him. I placed him in a position that many people dream of but never reach. He lacked neither ability, nor opportunity, nor initial support. What he lacked was not outward strength, but inward surrender, and it was precisely this absence that quietly led him to lose everything. I warned him more than once. I instructed him with words that were clear, not vague, not ambiguous. I did not test him with confusing commands. I spoke plainly what I desired and when I desired it. But Saul began to listen selectively. He listened to the parts that made him appear right before the people, while ignoring the parts that required him to place me above human approval. He learned how to keep what benefited his image and sacrifice what was necessary for his relationship with me, my beloved child. This is where the slide begins, not loudly, not with immediate collapse, but quietly and persistently. Saul's downfall did not happen in a single day. It unfolded through repeated small compromises with his spiritual conscience. He began to justify incomplete obedience. He called disobedience circumstances. He called delay wisdom. He called selectivity being realistic. He did not rise up to openly defy me. He simply adjusted my word to fit the pressure around him. And, my child, it was that very adjustment that redirected his life. For my word does not need to be edited to become reasonable. My word needs to be obeyed to become life. Saul cared more about pleasing people than obeying me. He feared losing support, feared being misunderstood, feared being isolated, and that fear caused him to elevate the voice of the crowd above my voice. My beloved child, when you place any voice above mine, whether the voice of others or the voice of fear within you, you are beginning to walk the path of Saul. You may still retain a title, maintain an image, and accomplish some things correctly, but the inner flow of life is slowly drying up. Destiny is not sustained by appearance, it is nourished by obedience. Saul confused partial obedience with complete obedience. He did half of what I commanded and expected me to accept the rest. He held on to what I told him to release and then offered me what he considered good enough. But, my beloved child, I am not seeking your leftovers, I am seeking your whole heart. Partial obedience is not obedience lacking something, it is disobedience disguised. Delayed obedience is not obedience waiting for the right moment, it is disobedience wearing the mask of caution. Selective obedience is not wisdom, it is disobedience clothed in reason. I say these things not to frighten you, but to awaken you. Do not repeat Saul's pattern, the pattern of listening only when it is convenient, acting only when it is easy, following only when there is no cost. My beloved child, your destiny is far too precious to be worn down by small compromises. I did not call you to live a life that is merely close enough. I called you to live a whole life, whole in hearing, whole in action, whole in trust. Let me be clear, I do not demand cold perfection. I invite sincere obedience. I know you may tremble. You may feel afraid. You may not yet see the entire road ahead. But I do not accept delay disguised as moral reasoning. I do not agree with selectivity wrapped in eloquent explanations. When I say do it, it is an invitation into life, not a command to step into danger. When I say now, it is because timing itself is part of the miracle. My beloved child, learn from Saul so that you do not have to learn through your own loss. Recognize the signs early when you begin to listen to many voices more than mine, when you begin to care more about image than truth, when you begin to negotiate with instruction, when you begin to delay what you know you must do. These signs are not meant to condemn you, they are meant to awaken you. For I love you too much to let you drift far down the road of compromise. I am calling you to obedience that is whole, not partial. I am calling you to obedience that is immediate, not later. I am calling you to obedience that is complete, not holding back what I have asked for. Not because I need to control you, but because I desire to protect what I have placed within you. Your destiny is not kept safe by your cleverness, but by your faithfulness to my voice. Engrave this in your heart as an unmistakable marker. To obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen is better than the fat of rams. 1 Samuel 1:5-2. This verse was not spoken only for Saul. It is spoken to every heart standing at the crossroads between following my voice and yielding to surrounding pressure. Sacrifice may impress people. Obedience preserves relationship. Sacrifice may cover the eyes of others. Obedience opens my heart. My beloved child, I do not want you to lose your destiny over decisions that seem small. I do not want you to stand before me one day with reasonable explanations but lacking obedience. I want you to stand before me with empty hands and a trusting heart, having heard, having acted, having walked. Choose the path of complete obedience. Choose today. Choose fully. For the destiny I have prepared for you is not meant to be protected by compromise, but entered through obedience. My beloved child, take a moment to reflect on Nineveh, not as a distant ancient place, but as a mirror that reveals how I act toward humanity and toward you today. Nineveh was a city that had strayed far from the way of life, a place overflowing with violence, corruption, and pride. For generations, they had ignored my voice, treated righteousness lightly, and despised mercy. By every human standard, they deserved destruction. By pure justice alone, the verdict had already been sealed. Yet, my child, I am never hasty in judgment. I always leave open one final door of opportunity, a door called listening. When I sent Jonah to Nineveh, I did not do so to announce an ending like one who is cold and detached. I did it to offer them a chance to turn back. Jonah's proclamation was not gentle, not soothing, not pleasing to the ear. It was a clear, direct, unmistakable warning, and it was precisely that urgency that awakened an entire city. From the king down to the common people, they humbled themselves, repented, and changed their ways. My beloved child, what altered Nineveh's destiny was not military power, not collective intelligence, but one simple yet profound decision: they were willing to listen. Let this be deeply engraved in your heart. My warnings are not signs of wrath, but signs of mercy. If I intended to destroy, I would not have spoken. If I meant to condemn, I would have remained silent. The very fact that I raise my voice even when it is strong, even when it is urgent, is proof that I am still opening a path to life. Nineveh was spared not because they were flawless, but because they responded. They did not erase their past in a single day, but they changed the direction of their future through humility in the present. My beloved child, many people mistake my warnings for anger. They think that when I speak firmly, I am furious when I repeat myself. I am impatient when I press them. I am threatening. But my child, if I were angry, I would not have waited. If I were impatient, I would not have sent a messenger. If I wished to threaten, I would not have allowed time for a response. My mercy often wears the garment of urgency, because true love is never indifferent when danger draws near. Understand this: when I speak urgently, it is because I want to prevent disaster, not cause it. I see the road ahead more clearly than you do. I see the consequences you have not yet imagined. I see how small turns today can become deep chasms tomorrow. And so, I call, I warn, I repeat, not to frighten you, but to give you time to stop, time to turn, time to choose again. My urgency is the outstretched hand before you slip and fall. My beloved child, when I warn you, it is because I want to save you, not condemn you. Condemnation closes doors, warning opens them. Condemnation says, "It is finished." Warning says, "There is still time." I do not speak to label you by your failures. I speak to separate you from them. I do not repeat myself to shame you. I repeat myself so that you may be free. As with Nineveh, I did not change because their sin was small or great. I changed because their hearts turned back. My child, Nineveh teaches you a truth you must hold tightly in this season. No condition is too far gone to turn back while there is still a willingness to listen. No destiny is too rigid to be redirected through humility. No sentence is beyond delay when a warning is met with genuine repentance. The greatest danger is not great sin. The greatest danger is a heart that no longer listens. Perhaps you have thought that my words to you were too severe. Perhaps you have wondered why I did not speak more gently, why I did not wait until you felt more ready. But my beloved child, if I had waited until you were comfortable, you might have gone too far. If I had waited until you felt safe, the moment might have been lost. I speak while change is still possible, while choice is still available, while you can still be rescued from unnecessary cycles of pain. Look at Nineveh and recognize this: a city was spared, not because they argued well, but because they humbled themselves quickly. They did not debate the warning. They did not demand more proof. They did not delay to see what would happen. They responded immediately, and that response rewrote their history. My beloved child, I do not require you to understand everything. I only invite you to respond with a soft heart, one that listens and is willing to change direction. As Scripture records, reflecting my very heart, the Lord is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. Joel 2:1-3. That word was not only for Nineveh long ago, it is for you today. I am slow to anger not because I take sin lightly, but because I cherish life. I am rich in mercy not so that you may delay, but so that you may return. My beloved child, do not mistake my patience for approval. Do not misinterpret my warnings as threats. If I am still speaking, it means I still love. If I am still calling, it means I am still making a way. If I am still reminding you, it means I have not let go. Silence is what you should fear. Warning is a gift. Therefore, hear my urgency as the heartbeat of a father. Let the warning awaken you, not panic you. Let urgency draw you back to life, not push you into shame. And remember Nineveh, a city whose fate was changed not because it deserved mercy, but because it chose to listen. Today, that same door stands open before you, not a door of judgment, but a door of mercy. My beloved child, I show you all these stories not so that you may pile up more knowledge in your mind, nor so that you may compare yourself with those who came before you. I reveal them for a reason, both simple and profound, so that you may live. True life does not come from knowing much, but from listening rightly. Those who know how to listen do not merely survive from day to day, they walk with light to guide their path. Those who know how to obey do not merely avoid disaster, they discover grace that has been waiting for them all along. Those who respond to warnings are not swept away by circumstances, they walk within a destiny that has already been set in place. But those who ignore me, even if they continue moving forward, suffer loss, not because I desire it, but because they have chosen blindness. My beloved child, I love you too deeply to allow you to repeat the mistakes of those who went before you without learning from them. I do not recount history to condemn, I recount it to protect. I do not recall collapses to sow fear. I recall them so that you do not have to pay the price others paid. I do not present these stories as framed pictures on a wall, I present them as road signs placed before the bend, before the cliff, before the fork in the road. The wise read the signs and adjust. The stubborn ignore them and then blame the road. That is why I speak to you with such urgency, not because I am impatient, but because I am walking ahead of you. I see what you do not yet see. I hear movements your ears have not yet caught. I sense the winds that signal a change of season while you are still busy keeping warm for the old one. My urgency does not come from anger. It comes from love, racing against time. When I call your name, it is because I want you to pause long enough to hear, humble yourself enough to respond, and be courageous enough to move forward. This is also why I stir your spirit even as you read these lines. I do not wait for you to enter some holy space before I speak. I do not wait for you to silence every noise before raising my voice. I speak right in the midst of ordinary life amid its rhythms, its fatigue, its tangled thoughts, because that is precisely where you most need awareness. I am not trying to frighten you. I am awakening you. Fear paralyzes. Awareness brings life. Fear pushes you into defense. Awareness opens you to guidance. Let this be clear to you. Every story in Scripture reveals my heart, a heart that is consistent, faithful, unchanged by the passing of ages. I warn before danger arises, because I do not delight in extinguishing fires. I delight in preventing them. I teach before change comes, because I do not want you to be caught off guard. I want you to be prepared. I call you before promotion comes, because promotion is not only an honor, it is a responsibility that requires a firm foundation. I guide before I bless, because blessing requires a heart wide enough to receive, humble enough to hold, and wise enough to give. My beloved child, I warn not because I am angry. I warn because I care. I speak not to overwhelm you. I speak to prepare you. I lead not to control you. I lead to protect you. The world controls through fear. I protect through truth. The world pushes through pressure. I prepare through light. When you understand this difference, you will no longer flee from warnings. You will embrace them as a gift. There is a paradox you must grasp. Warning is the highest form of grace. Grace is not only forgiveness after you fall. Grace is also the light that turns on before you step into darkness. Grace is not only the healing of wounds. Grace is also the shield that stops the arrow. When I say, stop, that is grace. When I say, go another way, that is grace. When I say, now, that is grace, because timing itself is part of life. My beloved child, those who know how to listen live, not because they never err, but because they are willing to adjust. Those who know how to obey find grace not because they are strong, but because they place the weight of their lives in the right hands. Those who respond to warnings walk in destiny not because they foresee everything, but because they trust the one who sees all things ahead of time. But those who ignore me suffer loss not because I withdraw my love, but because they step away from the light. Let me speak plainly to you in love. The most dangerous thing is not that you are facing difficulty. The most dangerous thing is becoming accustomed to not listening. The most frightening thing is not that you still have many questions. The most frightening thing is that you stop asking me. The most heartbreaking thing is not that you once went astray. The most heartbreaking thing is that you continue on without adjusting. I do not speak to reopen old failures. I speak to open a new path. My beloved child, the preparation I am working within you is not loud, but it is deep. I am aligning your heart so you can hear more clearly. I am loosening your grip so you can release at the right moment. I am strengthening your steps so you can go farther. And in this process, my warnings are the drumbeat that keeps the rhythm so you do not run too fast, lag too far behind, or stray from the company. That drumbeat does not sound to confuse you. It sounds to keep you in sync with what I am doing. Believe this, I never call without preparing. I never prepare without protecting. I never protect without loving. And I never love while remaining silent in the face of danger. When you hear my urgent voice, understand that you are standing at a crucial intersection where a small choice can open into a great season. I want you to enter that season with eyes open, ears open, and heart open. My beloved child, I call you by name because I know you. I know your heartbeat, your fears, your dreams, and even the things you have not yet dared to name. I stir your spirit not to unsettle you, but to make you alive. True life is not noisy, it is awake. True life is not showy, it is steady. And you are being invited into that life not by your own strength, but through listening and obedience. So pause for a moment, place your hand upon your choices and ask, whom am I listening to? Look at your impulses and ask, where is this leading me? Let my word become your standard, not fleeting emotion, not surrounding pressure. When you do, you will discover this: I do not take away your freedom. I restore true freedom. I do not shrink your life. I expand it. I do not frighten you. I awaken you. Oh, my beloved child, I have spoken, and I will continue to speak until love completes its purpose within you. Listen, that you may live. Obey, that you may find grace. Respond, that you may walk in destiny. And trust, this every warning you hear today is a step of protection for tomorrow, a preparation for blessing, and a mark of love that never gives up. My beloved child, I am doing a work in your life right now that is both exceedingly gentle and profoundly powerful. I am not merely repairing what was broken, I am equipping you so that you do not have to return to old cycles. The wisdom I give you is not meant to make you proud that you have figured things out, but to cause you to walk differently. True wisdom is not only recognizing what is wrong after the price has been paid. True wisdom recognizes the turn before your foot ever steps onto it. I am placing within you the ability to see beyond fleeting emotions, beyond the pressure of circumstances, beyond the urgency driven by fear. I am teaching you how to read the signs, discern the voices, and recognize which paths lead to life and which are dead ends, painted with attractive colors. My child, your past is not a suspended sentence hanging over your head. Your former failures are not prophecies over your future. I do not revisit the past to shame you. I illuminate it so that you do not repeat it. There are lessons that, when learned by light, are far gentler than those learned through wounds. I am giving you wisdom to recognize decisions that once seemed small, yet slowly led you away from yourself. I am helping you see the patterns, repeated choices, familiar reactions, justified compromises so that you are no longer carried along by momentum. When you recognize a pattern, you are no longer its victim. I am also giving you clarity, a light that is not blinding but steady, so that you do not step into traps that have caused others to fall. You may look at those who have stumbled and think you would be different, but my beloved, confidence cannot replace watchfulness. Traps rarely appear frightening. They often wear the face of opportunity, convenience, or quick promises. Clarity allows you to see through the surface to the hidden cost beneath it. It helps you hear what is not said, notice what is not displayed, and pause before being swept away. I am teaching you how to slow down at the right moment, not to delay, but to choose accurately. My beloved child, the understanding I give you is not a collection of information to store away. It is the ability to recognize my patterns and walk in victory. My patterns always lead to life. I speak before events unfold. I warn before danger arrives. I instruct before I bless. I prepare you before I elevate you. When you learn to recognize this pattern, you will no longer be confused by repeated reminders or irritated by urgency. You will understand that this rhythm is the rhythm of love protecting you. There are times when you wonder why I do not speak in a gentler way, or why I do not simply let you experience things and learn afterward. My child, I am not withholding lessons, I am valuing you. I do not want you to learn through loss when you can learn through light. I do not want you to pay a price others have paid when I can give you a map. That is why I give you understanding, so that you do not mistake courage for recklessness, confuse faith with haste, or label stubbornness as perseverance. Beloved, this is your time, not because you have done enough, but because I have prepared enough. Not because everything is perfect, but because you have been equipped to walk forward. Timing is not measured only by calendars, it is measured by the maturity of the heart, and your heart is being aligned to hear more clearly, to discern more accurately, to respond more promptly. You may feel something stirring within you, not pressure, but alertness. That is a sign of timing. This is also your calling, not a call to run faster than others, but to walk more faithfully as yourself. This call does not pull you into display, it leads you into faithfulness. It does not ask you to prove your worth, it invites you to live from your identity. When you respond to this call, you do not trade peace for achievement, you allow peace to guide achievement. I'm calling you to rise not by your own strength, but through obedience illuminated by wisdom. My beloved child, understand this clearly. What I am saying to you is both a warning and an invitation. A warning so you may avoid paths that once exhausted you. An invitation so you may step into the new road opening before you. A warning so you do not repeat old mistakes. An invitation so you may live a directed life. A warning so you do not exchange your future for present convenience. An invitation to receive what I have long prepared. These two do not contradict each other. They move together like two hands of the same love. You may hear the warning and feel challenged. You may hear the invitation and feel encouraged. Both emotions are natural. But my beloved, do not let emotion decide your response. Let wisdom lead the way. When you pause to listen, ask the right questions, and remain willing to adjust. You step into the safest place of all, the safety of obedience. There, you do not need to know everything. You only need to know that I am leading. I am giving you wisdom, so you can choose differently when temptation calls your name. I am giving you clarity so you can see the exit even when the entrance looks enticing. I am giving you understanding so you can recognize timing and step forward at the right moment. These gifts are not meant to be kept for yourself, they are meant to be lived, decided with, and built upon. As you use them, you will find the road shorter, the load lighter, and your steps more secure. Beloved child, this is your time not to hesitate, but to respond. This is your call not to debate, but to walk. This is the warning to help you avoid old paths. And this is the invitation to lead you into what is new. I am here, not to pressure you, but to guide you. I do not stand behind you to accuse. I stand ahead of you to make a way. When you choose to listen, you will realize you are not being pushed into darkness, you are being drawn toward the light. So, my beloved, open your heart. Place the decisions before you under the light of the wisdom I give. Use clarity to say no at the right moment, and yes at the right time. Walk in understanding so that victory is not merely an outcome, but a way of life. I have prepared you for this hour. I am calling you for this season, and I will walk with you every step until the invitation becomes your life, and the warning becomes a story you tell with gratitude. My beloved child, after you have heard what I am whispering into your heart, I want you to understand that this is not merely a fleeting emotional moment. This is a true turning point, not one marked by noise or dramatic upheaval, but a quiet crossroads within, where you decide whether to continue living by old momentum or to step into a new rhythm guided by awareness. I am not pressing you forward through fear. but neither will I allow you to lull yourself back to sleep through delay. For there are moments when, if you do not move forward, you will not remain still, you will drift backward. You have walked long enough in a state of almost in faith, almost in obedience, almost in surrender. You say that you trust me, yet you keep backup plans out of fear of disappointment. You say that you surrender, yet you quietly try to control outcomes because you fear losing agency. You say that you are ready, yet deep inside you are still waiting for another sign, another timing, another condition. My beloved child, I do not fault you for being afraid. I simply do not want fear to continue ruling over you. I am leading you out of a season of living by reaction and into a season of living by choice. Before, you reacted to circumstances when things were good. You felt at ease when things went wrong. You became unsettled. But now I am inviting you to live by choice, to choose, to trust, even when you do not yet see. To choose obedience, even when you do not fully understand. To choose to move forward even when your heart still trembles. This is maturity. This is the moment when faith is no longer just words, but becomes a pillar. My beloved child, I know you have been disappointed, not only with circumstances, but at times even with me. You prayed and waited, hoped and endured, yet the outcome did not come in the way you expected. And in those quiet gaps, you learned how to protect yourself, to expect less, to invest less, to believe less absolutely. But my child, that self-protection has also quietly built a wall that keeps you from going deeper into relationship with me. I did not come to break you. I came to invite you to lower that wall brick by brick, in the safety of love. Now I am teaching you to discern the difference between wisdom and caution disguised as wisdom. Wisdom leads you into life. Disguised caution keeps you trapped in a false sense of safety. Wisdom helps you pause at the right moment to listen. Disguised caution causes you to stop indefinitely out of fear of being wrong. I do not call you to walk blindly, but neither do I call you to stand still until everything feels certain. Faith always requires a step, not a reckless one, but a trusting one. My beloved child, in this season I am exposing the motives within your heart, not to condemn, but to purify. There are things you have done out of fear of abandonment, choices you have made to gain approval, paths you have taken because you thought they were what I wanted, when in truth, they were what you wanted me to approve. I do not reveal these things to shame you. I reveal them to free you, so you are no longer driven by unseen motives you yourself have never named. I am teaching you how to live honestly before me, not to live correctly, but to live truthfully. Truthful with your questions, truthful with your weariness, truthful with your longings and even your hesitations. I do not need you to perform perfect faith. I need you to place an honest heart into my hands. From there, I will build you not according to the image you desire, but according to the identity I placed within you from the beginning. My beloved child, there are doors about to open before you, but you will not be able to carry all your old baggage with you, not because I am withholding, but because the road ahead requires lightness. There are thoughts you must release, attachments you must untangle, old promises not from me that you must return. I know letting go is not easy, especially when you have leaned on these things for a sense of safety. But my child, true safety does not come from holding tightly. It comes from standing where I am leading you. I am also training you in a new kind of steadfastness, not rigid steadfastness, but steadfastness rooted in listening. Steadfast enough not to turn back when the path grows quiet. Steadfast enough not to doubt when the process feels slow. Steadfast enough not to compare your journey with another's. For each person has a different rhythm, a different timing, a different responsibility. When you compare, gratitude slips away. When you listen attentively, peace remains. My beloved child, I do not promise that the road ahead will be free of trials, but I do promise that you will not walk alone. Each challenge will not come to destroy you, but to reveal what is guiding you. If fear leads, the trial will make you shrink. If my voice leads, the trial will make you steadier. And through each moment, you will discover this: you are not as weak as you think, and I am closer than you imagine. Now, I invite you into a new habit, a habit of listening before reacting, of asking before deciding, and of resting before exhaustion sets in. This is not wasted slowness, it is a reordering of rhythm so that you can go farther. I do not want you merely to achieve the right outcomes. I want you to become the person I have called. Achievements may come and go, but an identity formed in obedience will stand through every season. My beloved child, let what I am doing within you today become the foundation for tomorrow. Do not rush to see results. Do not anxiously measure progress. Pay attention to the inner changes. Your heart is becoming softer, your ears more attentive, your steps more secure. These are signs of life growing within you, and that life will soon manifest outwardly in the right way, at the right time. I remind you so you do not forget, I did not call you to return to the past, but to step out of it. I did not call you to patch up an old life, but to enter a new one. I did not call you because you are perfect, but because you are willing to be transformed. And it is this willingness that I cherish and nurture within you. My beloved child, keep walking. No need for noise. No need to prove anything. No need to rush. Simply remain faithful in each small choice, each quiet decision, each moment you choose to listen to me rather than to fear. I am here, going before you, walking with you, and working within you. This season is opening. The path is becoming clear, and yes, you are being prepared to step into something greater, deeper, and more real than ever before. My beloved child, as you continue to walk through this process, I want you to understand that true transformation is not as loud as you once imagined. It does not always arrive with surging emotions or dramatic outward signs. Most of the time, transformation unfolds in silence, where old thoughts gradually lose their authority, where familiar reflexes no longer control you, where you begin to pause before speaking, before deciding, before reacting. This is not weakness. It is the sign of an inner life being reordered. I am teaching you to live from the inside out, rather than allowing external things to pull you along. You have grown accustomed to measuring progress by speed. But my child, speed is not the measure of rightness. There are seasons when I allow you to move quickly, and seasons when I require you to slow down so you do not miss what is essential. If you move faster than you can listen, you may arrive, but you will not carry life with you. If you move slowly with awareness, each step becomes a foundation. I am not delaying you, I am aligning you so you can carry what is coming without breaking. In the days ahead, you will notice that I am changing the way you see yourself. Before, you defined yourself by what you could do, what you achieved, or what you failed to do. Now I am bringing you back to identity, a place where you no longer need to prove your worth, because your worth has already been established. When you no longer have to strain for validation, you become free to obey. And obedience born of freedom is always stronger than obedience born of fear. My beloved child, I am also teaching you to distinguish between my prompting and the urgency of anxiety. These two voices can sound similar, but their sources are entirely different. Anxiety is always rushed and heavy, driven by fear of missing out. My voice is steady and clear, carrying peace even when I ask you to act quickly. As you learn to discern, you will no longer be swept along by the rhythm of fear. You will know when to wait, when to step forward, and when to let go. There are relationships in your life that I am also bringing into clearer light, not so that you may judge anyone, but so that you can recognize what nourishes and what drains. I do not call you to live in isolation, but neither do I call you to carry burdens that were never assigned to you. As you step into a new season, some connections will naturally change, not because someone has become worse, but because the rhythm has shifted. Learn to receive these changes with gratitude rather than guilt or fear. My beloved child, I am inviting you into a new kind of courage, not the courage to confront, but the courage to be honest. Honest with me, honest with yourself, honest about your limits, your longings, and even the things you are not yet ready for. I do not build you through pretense. I build you through truth placed within love. When you dare to say, I don't know, I will teach you. When you dare to say, I am tired, I will give you rest. When you dare to say, I am afraid, I will draw even closer. In this process, you may feel as though you are losing certain older versions of yourself. Familiar reactions no longer feel comfortable. Old patterns of thinking no longer fit. My child, this is not loss, it is shedding. I am not taking away anything essential. I am simply removing layers that have completed their purpose. Beneath them, you will find a person who is lighter, clearer, and freer to love, to trust, and to walk forward. I am also teaching you how to be patient with yourself. You have often been harsh, blaming yourself for not arriving yet, comparing yourself when others seem to move faster, forcing yourself to be fine even when you have not healed. My beloved child, patience with yourself does not slow you down, it makes you enduring. When you allow the process to unfold at its proper pace, you will not abandon it halfway through. I am not in a hurry with you. I do not measure you by the milestones the world sets. I measure you by faithfulness in each day. There will be moments when you do not feel me near. Do not rush to conclude that I have gone far away. Feelings are not the measure of presence. There are seasons when I work so deeply that the surface becomes quiet. Like a seed in the soil, no outward sign. Yet life is forming. If you remain patient, you will see the sprout emerge at the appointed time. And when it does, you will know that every silent day had meaning. My beloved child, I am teaching you to live with open hands, open to receive, but also open to give. When you grasp tightly out of fear of lack, the flow becomes blocked. When you open your hands in trust, you become a channel. This applies not only to material things, but also to time, energy, and love. I do not call you to exhaust yourself. I call you to give from a place of being nourished. And when you give in proper order, you will receive again in ways you did not expect. You will begin to see that small daily choices are shaping you more powerfully than rare. Dramatic decisions, how you speak when you are tired, how you remain silent when you are misunderstood, how you seek me before you respond. These things build the inner person, the one who will stand firm when responsibility increases. I am not preparing you for a single moment of glory. I am preparing you for a life of depth. My beloved child, do not be surprised when you feel less need to prove yourself. When you no longer have to tell your story to be believed. When you no longer require constant affirmation to know your worth. This is a sign that rest is growing within you. Rest does not make you passive, it makes you steady. From a place of rest, you will act with clarity, no longer driven by fear or ego. I also want you to know that what I am doing within you will not affect only you. As you change the way you listen, the way you respond, the way you obey, those around you will be touched not by preaching, but by life. Light does not need noise to dispel darkness. True peace does not need argument to be recognized. You are becoming a living invitation to those who are weary of living on autopilot. My beloved child, continue to keep your heart soft. Do not let small successes close you off. Do not let small stumbles discourage you. Each day you choose to listen. You choose life. Each day you choose obedience. You sow into the future. I do not ask you to be perfect. I invite you to be faithful. Faithfulness in small things opens the way for greater things, not because greater things matter more, but because you are ready to hold them without losing yourself. When you look back one day, you will not only see what you achieved, you will see who you became, and you will realize that the days I taught you to move slowly, the days I kept you in silence, the days I asked you to let go, were the days I loved you most. Not a love that indulges, but a love that prepares. My beloved child, continue to walk in awareness. Continue to trust even when you cannot yet see everything. Continue to obey even when you do not feel strong. I am here not only at the end of the road, but in every step. This season is not finished. This work is not complete. And you, yes, you are becoming the very person I saw from the beginning, one who listens, who trusts, who walks forward, and who lives fully in the light of love. My beloved child, I want you to understand that the journey you are walking is not a repetition of old cycles, but the opening of a new depth. I am not bringing you back to familiar places so you can do everything exactly as before. I am leading you through them with different eyes, a different heart, and a different foundation. What you have lived through has not been erased, but its power over you is being broken. You are no longer someone shaped by circumstances. You are becoming someone guided from within. There will be days when you notice that you no longer react the way you once did. Things that used to unsettle you now simply quiet you. Words that once struck your wounds now pass by without taking root. Do not underestimate these changes. They are not loud, but they are real. They are signs that you are no longer living behind old defenses, but learning to stand firm in inner safety. I am building within you an anchor that does not depend on external stability. My beloved child, I am also teaching you how to walk without the immediate feeling of being affirmed. Before, you were used to needing visible results, words of recognition, or clear signs to know you were on the right path. Now, I am leading you into a deeper level of trust, a place where you do not need everything to speak before you continue walking. This is where faith matures, not because it is blind, but because it is anchored in relationship rather than in feedback. You will learn that silence does not mean absence. There are moments when I do not say more, not because my work is finished, but because I am watching how you walk with what has already been given. Like a father teaching a child to walk, sometimes he must hold the hand tightly, and sometimes he must let go so the child can learn balance. I have not stepped away. I have simply changed the way I support you so that you can grow. My beloved child, I am leading you into a new freedom, the freedom from having to understand everything. You once believed that clarity was the condition for peace. Now you are learning that peace comes from knowing who is leading you, not from knowing every step of the road. When you stop demanding all the answers immediately, your heart will grow lighter, and in that lightness, you will hear the quieter guidance more clearly, the guidance that was once drowned out by the noise of overanalyzing. I am also softening the way you see others. You have carried expectations, comparisons, and invisible standards that tired you and tired those around you. Now I am teaching you to see through the lens of grace, not to remove boundaries, but to release the burden of judgment. When you no longer strain to be right, there is room for compassion. And compassion does not make you weaker, it makes you more like me. My beloved child, Prepare yourself for the reality that some familiar things will no longer attract you as they once did. Conversations that used to make you feel that you belonged may now feel shallow. Goals that once excited you may begin to feel empty. This does not mean you are becoming cold. It means your spiritual appetite is changing. I am leading you toward what nourishes you more deeply, more enduringly, more truthfully. And for that to happen, some things must lose their appeal. At times you may wonder, am I missing out on something, my beloved child? When you are walking in rhythm with me, you are not missing out, you are being protected. What no longer walks with you in this season is not essential to where you are going. I am not taking joy away from you. I am refining it so that it no longer depends on what is fragile. Joy that rests in identity will outlast joy that comes from temporary stimulation. I also want you to know that your faithfulness in small things is forming a foundation you cannot yet fully see. The evenings when you choose rest instead of proving yourself, the moments when you choose silence instead of argument, the decisions when you choose to ask rather than rush, these things are shaping you for greater responsibilities. I do not entrust weighty matters to an inner life that is not yet ordered. I order the inner life before I entrust the weight. My beloved child, do not be afraid when you appear to be less in the eyes of others, less talkative, less reactive, less hurried. This is not shrinkage, it is focus. When you are no longer scattered, your strength gathers. And when your strength gathers, you will have enough to stand when standing is required, and enough to move forward when moving is required. I do not need you to impress. I need you to endure. In this season, I am also teaching you how to receive correction without confusing it with rejection. When I adjust you, it is not because you lack value, but because you carry greater potential. A potter reshapes a vessel not because he despises it, but because he sees it can hold more. Do not resist adjustment through self-defense. Receive it through trust. Each time you allow me to refine you a little more, you will feel lighter and see more clearly. My beloved child, I know there are days when this process feels longer than you expected. You want to see the destination. You want to know when it will be finished. But my child, what I am building is not a phase to get through. It is a way of living to step into. If I showed you everything ahead, you might focus on the outcome and miss the transformation. I withhold part of the view so you learn to walk with me daily, rather than running toward the finish alone. Remember, you are not measured by someone else's speed. Your journey is measured by your obedience. When you walk in rhythm, you will arrive at the right place, neither early nor late. I am never late with the destiny I have appointed. If you find yourself in a waiting space, understand that it is not emptiness, it is incubation. Roots growing deep underground do not need the spotlight. My beloved child, continue to nurture listening through very ordinary choices. Reduce the noise. Choose moments of stillness. Keep your heart soft before me. You do not need polished words, only honest presence. When you come to me as you truly are, I will meet you there not to keep you where you are, but to lead you forward. I rejoice that you are no longer seeking reassurance from old sources. I see you learning to stand still without panic, to move forward without arrogance, to wait without bitterness. These things do not happen overnight. They are the result of many moments when you chose trust, even when it was inconvenient. And I cherish every one of those choices. Now, pray like this, Lord. I bow my heart before you and confess this truth without your quiet, unseen hand. I would not still be standing here. I once believed I had survived because of my own strength, my habits, my toughness. But today I want to speak honestly before you many times. When my soul was at its emptiest, weakest, and most hollow, that was precisely when you held me back from falling. Forgive me for taking silent peace for granted, for forgetting that when nothing happens, it is sometimes the clearest sign of your protection. I thank you for the doors you closed before I could step through them, for the turns you redirected without any sound of collision. Lord, teach me to look back on my life with gratitude and alertness. I do not want to measure faith by thunder or dramatic events and then dismiss the small movements of grace. Open the eyes of my spirit so I may recognize this truth. There are seasons when you work most deeply that look, from the outside, completely ordinary. When I see nothing special, keep me from concluding that you are silent or distant. Help me trust that you are laying foundations, repairing what is hidden, healing places I cannot see on my own. Lord, today I choose to respond to grace with a decision. I will no longer live as though each day is random. Teach me to treasure every breath, every morning, every chance to still be here as a space of grace, an invitation to return to what truly matters. Touch the deepest place within me, so I do not merely exist, but truly live, living in your presence, living with purpose, living in trust. Lord, I come before you with a difficult confession. I have become far too skilled at postponing. I have lulled myself to sleep with familiar phrases. There's still time. Later will be fine. Everything is okay. Yet I know that many times my version of okay was only a shell, hiding dryness and a real hunger inside. I called emptiness peace. I called numbness maturity. I called merely getting by wisdom. Lord, forgive me for slowing down in seeking you, not because I did not need you, but because I had grown accustomed to enduring. Lord, awaken me, not through fear, but through light. I do not want to hear you only with ears trained to react, but with the deepest part of my soul. Help me discern the difference between silence that teaches me to listen and silence that lulls me into sleep. Remove from me the habit of bargaining with your call just this once. A little later, when I'm ready, place within me a new sensitivity. So, when you say now, I do not drag your word into someday. Lord, I do not ask you for intense emotions to force me to believe. I ask you for a soft heart that willingly responds. Help me understand this time alone does not make me ready. Only timely obedience opens the next step. Today, I choose to rise, though trembling, and say to you, I am here. Please lead me. Lord, I thank you for protecting me not only from what I can see, but also from voices I could not recognize. Some voices sounded reasonable, convincing, even familiar, yet they shrank my dreams, made me doubt my worth, and persuaded me that my life was meant to be only barely bearable. Forgive me for allowing those voices to dwell in my mind, as if they had the right to define me. Today, before you, I declare only, your voice has authority over my life. Lord, cleanse my mind of arguments disguised as wisdom that quietly pull me away from you. Give me the courage to name what weakens me: comparison, fear of rejection, image obsession, the anxiety of being left behind. Cut off the root of insecurity not only in my actions, but at its origin, the way I see myself. Teach me to see myself through your eyes, the eyes of the one who called my name before I ever understood who I was. Lord, when counterfeit voices return, teach me not to argue in confusion, but to return to your presence. Form in me a new habit to pause, to breathe, and to ask, does this voice draw me closer to the Father or farther away if it pulls me into shame, despair, or withdrawal? Let me recognize that it is not your voice. Place within me the peace of one who knows they belong in the Father's house, so I no longer need fear's permission to take my next step. Lord, I come before you without a role to perform, but as my true self, a person who has been bracing for far too long. I learned to smile while cracking inside, to say, "I'm fine," while my breath was constricted, to stay busy so I would not face the emptiness. I know, you see beyond every mask, you hear my heart. You know my motives. You understand the places I locked away and labeled already past, even though they still control me. Lord, have mercy on me and help me stop hiding from myself. Lord, I choose to step into the identity you have written. I am loved, chosen, entrusted. Rescue me from the invisible cage formed by others' words, painful memories, and distorted lessons drawn from wounds. Break the patterns I built in the name of safety, patterns that have made my life smaller. I do not want to live by fear's distorted version of reality. I want to live by the truth of life. Lord, teach me the difference between control and peace. I confess that I clung tightly to timelines, outcomes, and scripts and called it surrender. Today, I set them down. Help me let go without fear of loss, to trust without needing to see ahead, to walk without demanding the whole map. I speak honestly before you. I need you. Heal deeply, fill completely, free fully, so that my victory begins from within. Lord, I sense urgency in your voice, not as pressure, but as love racing against time. I confess that many turning points in my life arrived gently, without noise or warning, and because they were gentle, I passed through them without realizing I had chosen a different direction. Lord, grant me alertness so I do not take this moment lightly. Do not allow the rhythm of daily life to blind me to the choices that are shaping an entire season ahead. Lord, please help me pause for a moment so that I ask you, instead of asking my fears, where am I standing? Am I in the right place? Calm the noise within me, the noise of pressure, expectations, and haste, so that your voice becomes the clearest voice of all. I do not want to choose what is easiest simply because I am tired. I do not want to drift into a mindset of it's good enough and lose what is whole and complete. Lord, please grant me one concrete act of obedience today, even if it is small but real. I do not want to merely nod in agreement and then return to the old path. Draw me across the threshold by the freedom of my own will, so that I respond not with grand promises, but with genuine action. Guard me from living halfway, not desperate enough to cry out, not alert enough to go deeper. Today, I choose depth. Lord, many times I have asked in silence, why does this take so long? Why has the answer not come? Why does the not remain? Today I do not come to accuse, but to learn. Help me understand that you are not slow because you lack power. You do not delay because you have forgotten. You work all things in their perfect time, not only aligned with outward circumstances, but also matched to the inward maturity you are forming within me. Lord, forgive me for calling standing still meaningless. Open my eyes to see that there is a kind of growth in depth that ordinary sight cannot detect. Each time, I continue to believe while my heart is weary. Help me know that quiet strength is being built. Each time I do not turn away. Let me understand that the foundation is becoming more secure. Do not let me measure the journey by whether it is fast or slow, but by my faithfulness to your voice. Lord, shape me into a vessel strong enough to carry blessing. If there are cracks, repair them. If there is pride, humble it. If there is fear, heal it. I do not want blessing to become a burden because I am not ready. Sustain me through refinement, so that I may take deeper root in you like a tree that, when the wind comes, drives its roots deeper rather than being uprooted. Teach me to live by faith even when there are no visible guarantees. Lord, I confess that I have been stretched thin by too many voices. The voices of work, responsibility, worry, expectations, and repeated questions. In all this noise, I have grown accustomed to living without truly listening. Forgive me for allowing distraction to become a way of life, for letting accumulated weariness rob me of the ability to go deep. Lord, rescue me from questions that sound reasonable, but come only to stop me from seeking further. Remove from me the belief that silence means distance. Teach me to understand that you do not disappear when I feel nothing. You do not leave when excitement fades. Train me to hear your whisper, the voice that does not compete with noise, but pierces straight through it. Lord, heal me from the stagnation of the soul, the state of hearing without stopping, sensing without acting, knowing without allowing that knowledge to change how I live. I do not want to live long without ever truly living. Wake me from the trance of habit and fear, so that I may enter real life, a life of purpose, alertness, and victory that begins within. Give me a new discipline of presence, turning down the noise, opening my heart before you, and acting on what you reveal. Lord, I come before you with reverence, remembering that obedience is better than sacrifice. I do not want to live a nearly right life, where I obey in part and justify the rest. Rescue me from selective obedience, from calling disobedience circumstances, delay prudence, and compromise realism. Lord, place within me a whole heart, not flawless and detached, but sincere and ready to respond. Lord, show me the small signs that pull me back into old ruts when I begin listening to more voices than yours, when I care more about image than truth, when I negotiate with your instruction, when I say later to what I know I must do. Help me stop in time, before small compromises erode a great destiny. I do not want to lose what you have placed within me simply because I fear being misunderstood or losing human approval. Lord, also deliver me from unnecessary detours, the paths I have walked too many times. Give me the courage to follow your guidance the moment you speak, even when my reasoning cannot yet see the whole picture. Teach me to trust you with all my heart and not lean on my own understanding. I offer to you the small things I have: my time, my attention, my obedience, so that you may turn them into a new flow of life. Lord, lead me on the straight path of obedience, lighter, healthier, and full of purpose. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong and growing community of faith. My beloved child, the truth is that there has never been a single moment in your life that was accidental. The fact that you are still here, that your heart continues to beat, that breath still rises and falls within your chest, is not because you are luckier than others, nor because you have never made mistakes. It is because I have kept you. I have laid my hand of protection over your journey, even along the stretches you never noticed. There were times you thought you survived by instinct alone, by habit, by your own toughness. But my child, without my quiet guardianship, you would have fallen long ago, especially in those moments when your heart felt most hollow. Your being alive today is not a meaningless delay. It is a space of grace. A gift of time I have given you, so you might rediscover what your soul has neglected for far too long. I know you once believed that faith could only be measured by great events, by dramatic moments, by miracles so obvious they leave others in awe. You grew accustomed to waiting for a sign strong enough to force belief upon you. Yet while you waited for thunder, I was working silently within the smallest movements. I did not test your faith by pushing you into an abyss, but by placing you in the midst of an ordinary-looking life, where days unfold slowly and steadily, and it is precisely that steadiness that lulls the soul to sleep. You assumed that when nothing remarkable happened, nothing divine was at work. You were mistaken. Some of my deepest work takes place when nothing seems to change. Because I am digging foundations within you, places your own eyes cannot reach. Listen to me now with your fullest attention, not with ears trained to react, but with the deepest chamber of your soul. I do not come to plant fear, nor to threaten you with dark futures. I come to wake you from a long trance, the trance of postponement, of telling yourself there is still time. Later will do. Everything is fine as it is. You did not realize that this very sense of fine has slowed your seeking of me. You learned to adapt to emptiness and called it peace. You grew accustomed to dryness and called it maturity. But I see clearly inside you there is thirst, weariness, and a longing for a real touch, not merely another day endured. My child, every second of your life unfolds within a sacred order you did not design. Not a single breath is wasted. Not a single morning is meaningless. Even on days when you wake heavy, directionless, uninspired, I am still there. I use those days to whisper a truth into your heart. You were not created merely to exist. I allow you to feel tired so you will stop leaning on your own strength. I let you reach your limits so you will begin to seek a source beyond yourself. If I were finished with you, you would no longer feel this emptiness at all. The thirst within you is proof that I am still calling. There were dangers that came far closer to you than you ever realized. Events had been set in motion. Crossroads that seemed small, but could have carried you toward an entirely different ending. You never knew, because I stood ahead of you, quietly redirecting your steps, silently closing doors that had you entered would have wounded your soul beyond easy repair. You heard no collision, saw no intervention, and so you assumed nothing happened. Yet that very nothing was the sign of protection. I watched over you in nights when you slept unaware. I held you in days when exhaustion reduced you to moving forward by sheer momentum. You did not notice, because true protection is not loud, not dramatic, not demanding recognition. I also silenced voices that did not come from me. Some words were sown into your mind with an appearance of reason, persuasion, and familiarity, so much like your own thoughts that you scarcely questioned them. They did not shout or threaten, but slowly caused you to doubt your worth, to shrink your dreams, to believe you deserved only a life of quiet endurance. I stripped those voices of their power before they could take deep root within you. At times you wondered why you suddenly hesitated, why a once burning intention faded before completion. You thought it was indecision or weakness, yet often it was me holding you back from a choice that would have eroded your soul over time. My beloved child, I have not only preserved you from what is visible, but also from assaults you had no ability to recognize on your own. There are attacks that do not aim at your body, but at your inner steadfastness. They come to wear you down through waiting, to discourage you through the slowness of the process, to make you believe that your perseverance is pointless. I stopped them before you could begin to believe that you were without worth. If you are still able to rise after moments when you felt you could not possibly stand again, it is not because you are stronger than others, but because I did not allow your appointed time to end sooner than what I had determined. And now, I speak not by coincidence. This moment is not a random pause in the sequence of your days. It is a significant intersection, where many things will be shaped for the road ahead. You may think that today is like any other day, that you are simply reading or hearing one more message, and then returning to your familiar rhythm of life. But I tell you this, what you do with this moment will leave a deeper and more lasting mark than you realize. There are doors that do not open through dramatic actions, but through genuine listening. There are transformations that do not begin with outward circumstances, but with a heart stirred deeply enough that it cannot return to its former state. You have only a brief window of time to choose how you will respond, not because I am in a hurry, but because your heart must be awakened before it lulls itself back to sleep with familiar excuses. If you pass by this call, you will continue to live, but you will live in a half-awake state, not desperate enough to cry out, yet not alert enough to step into a deeper dimension. I do not want you to live that way. I did not create you to exist by habit or to endure through resignation. I call you into a life of awareness, where you know why you rise each morning and why you do not give up even when everything is still unclear. Let me touch the deepest part of you right now. Do not listen only with a mind that analyzes right and wrong, gain and loss. Listen with a soul that longs to live in alignment with its true purpose. You have grown accustomed to postponing spiritual decisions, telling yourself that you will return to them later, that you will be more serious when you have time. But my child, time does not automatically make you ready. Only a response given at the moment of calling opens the next step. I am not asking you to understand everything. I am simply inviting you to trust enough not to turn away. Top of form, my beloved child. The moments now unfolding before you are not an unconscious extension of yesterday, nor are they a vague transition you can casually pass by and return to later. These are decisive moments where you either choose to rise and step into the depth of life I have been quietly preparing for you, or continue circling familiar paths, persuading yourself that such a life is safe enough. But, my child, that false sense of safety has stolen from you what is most precious, wholeness. I did not create you to live a repetitive life, existing by reflex and habit alone. I am calling you into a life with direction, depth, and meaning, a life that requires you to dare to respond when you are called. I test your faith not because I find pleasure in your struggle. I am not one who watches you from a distance to see how long you can endure. I test your faith because faith, if never placed under pressure, remains only a beautiful idea spoken with ease. A faith that has never been shaken does not know what it truly stands upon. A faith that has never been required will never discover the real strength I have placed within it. You often think faith is the feeling of peace when everything is in order. But I tell you this, true faith reveals itself most clearly when you must walk forward without any visible guarantees. Many times you have asked me in silence, why is everything taking so long? Why hasn't the answer come? Why are the knots I have prayed over for so long still not undone? I hear every one of those questions, and I do not fault you for asking. But, my beloved child, you must understand something deeper than what your eyes can see. I do not delay because I lack power. I am not slow because I hesitate or forget. Everything I do unfolds in perfect timing, a timing that aligns not only with external circumstances, but also with your inner maturity. What you call slow often does not lie in my actions, but in your readiness. I do not withhold blessings as dangling rewards to test your patience. I am preparing the vessel that will carry those blessings, and that vessel is you. If I were to pour when the vessel is still cracked, the blessing would become a burden. If I were to open the door when you are not yet steady, what should be a breakthrough would become a crushing weight. I love you too much to give you something before you can stand firm under its weight. You see only the surface of the days, the unfinished matters, the unanswered prayers, the roads still veiled in mist. But I see the entire chain of decisions shaping your destiny. I see how each time you choose to keep believing while your heart is weary, a quiet strength is being built. I see how each time you do not turn away, do not shrink back, do not close your heart, the foundation within you grows stronger than you realize. What you call standing still is, in truth, growth in depth, a kind of growth not easily recognized by the naked eye. My beloved child, faith that is never shaken cannot stand firm. A tree that has never faced strong winds will not grow roots deep enough to remain when a storm arrives. In the same way, a faith that has never been tested will collapse when confronted with greater responsibility. I am not preparing you for a small season. I am preparing you for what will require you to stand not only for yourself, but for others as well. That is why I allow the winds to blow, why I allow the ground to tremble, not to knock you down, but to drive your roots deeper into me. At times you think that if I truly loved you, I would have made everything easier. But, my child, true love is not the removal of every challenge. It is leading you through challenges so you may become who you were created to be. I do not want you to live your entire life in a state of just enough, simply because you were never pressed to trust fully. I do not want you to look back with regret, realizing you were so close, yet did not dare to take one more step. These moments are inviting you to make an inner choice, quiet, unannounced, yet profoundly formative. You can choose to rise in faith, even while your knees tremble, or you can continue to delay, continue walking the familiar circles, reassuring yourself that tomorrow will be different. But, my beloved child, tomorrow does not change on its own if today you do not choose differently. I am here not to force you, but to call you. I do not push you across the threshold. I stand beside you and wait for you to step through in the freedom of your own will. Remember this, I am not restraining your breakthrough. I am making you strong enough to sustain it. I am not sealing your future. I am enlarging your heart so it can contain the future I have appointed. You see the present moment with impatience. I see the entire journey with eternal understanding. And because I clearly see who you will become, I am not as hurried as you wish, yet I am never as late as you fear. Do not let these moments pass without meaning. Allow your faith to be awakened, stretched, and drawn beyond the familiar. For on the other side of testing is not loss, but maturity. On the other side of shaking is not collapse, but true stability. And on the other side of the choice you make today is a more complete life, the life I have prepared for a long time, and which is waiting for you to enter with a whole heart of trust. My beloved child, pause right in this moment and listen with your whole being, not merely with the mind that is accustomed to analyzing, comparing, and reacting, but with the deepest part of you where your spirit has been waiting to be awakened. I am speaking, not to add another idea to your thoughts, but to light a lamp within you. For there are things that, if heard only with the mind, will quickly be forgotten, but if heard with the spirit, they become life. I know you have been stretched thin by too